Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Community Matters here on 103.7 WEEI. I'm your host, Scott Cordischi. Glad that you could join us. Community Matters, of course, is the show that keeps you up to date with many of the great things happening in and around our communities here in the state of Rhode Island, in southeastern Massachusetts, and in eastern Connecticut. And as many of you know, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we have had representatives in the past on our show from the Gloria Gemma Breast Cancer Resource Foundation, and joining us this year as a representative of that foundation, and what a story she has to tell. She is an oncology social worker. In fact, she was the guest speaker at the Gloria Gemma Breast Cancer Resource Foundation Flames of Hope in 2022. Shakay Kizirian is with us. Shakay, how are you this morning?
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I feel fantastic. Thank you.
It's great to have you on the show, and I also should have mentioned, probably at the very top of the list of things that you do and things that represent who you are a cancer survivor, and I think that's the most important thing, isn't it?
I am, yes. I had my first cancer 37 years ago. I was 28 years old, and I discovered my breast cancer by doing a breast self-examination. And as a young woman, I had fibrocystic breast. And for those that are aware or not aware, fibrocystic breasts are lumpy, bumpy breasts. So I was familiar with that. But when I did the breast self-exam that day, I had always been taught to do it laying down. And I had learned when I was a social worker at the Johns Hopkins Breast Health Center to also do a breast self-exam sitting up. And I remembered when I did my exam that day, I did it laying down, but then I remembered that poster and that instruction, and I thought, let me do it sitting up. And then when I did, that's when I felt this lump. And I knew that it was something I had never, ever felt before. It was something just totally different. And in the pit of my stomach, I said, uh-oh, this isn't good. And I had a lot of fear. And I said, oh, my goodness, what could this be? I had a feeling what it was, and I just was kind of wishing it away and just kept checking myself over and over again, thinking maybe it's just part of my cycle. But then I said to myself, it's best to get checked out. And I did go to my doctor, and he had suggested to have a mammogram. And I remembered at the time, being 28 years old, thinking a mammogram is an old lady test. Why do I have to have that? And he just kept reassuring me that it's probably nothing. And then come to find out it was something. And I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 28.
And you made the very difficult but the right decision to have a mastectomy, did you not?
I did, yes. The first course was a needle aspiration where they check your fluids. And then after that, again, this is 37 years ago, so things were done a little differently. But I had a node dissection, and then I had the lumpectomy. And yes, I did have that option. I could have had radiation or had what they call a modified radical mastectomy. And after much thought and prayer, I'm a woman of great faith, I decided for me, what made sense, what I could live with, was to have the mastectomy. And in all these years, I've never regretted that decision. It gave me peace to have this surgery.
Shakay, we hear so much that cancer, oftentimes, if caught early, can be cured. Is that the case with breast cancer as well?
Yes. I mean, they do have, yes, that is true. That is true. There are women who are very blessed and fortunate that, like myself, who was diagnosed, had the surgery, had additional treatments if needed, and they have been cancer-free. And then, unfortunately, there are women, and I'm very blessed, actually, to facilitate a metastatic breast cancer support group with the Gloria Gemma Breast Cancer Resource Foundation. And these are women that were diagnosed with a metastatic stage 4 breast cancer, which means there is no cure. There are multiple treatments, multiple interventions to help the women's disease remain stable, or even if they're trying multiple treatments, and the disease is not stabilized, there's multiple interventions to try to at least keep the cancer at bay, trying to give the women more time, more quality of life, and hopefully some intervention will work. And this group has been phenomenal, and I think this group is a real indication of the dedication that the Gloria Gemma Foundation has for the folks that they serve. The women in this group were part of another support group, and they indicated that they felt they needed more. They felt like their needs were very unique, and they wanted to be part of a support group just for women with metastatic breast cancer. And so I was asked if I would help facilitate that group, and we started it back in June. And we meet the first Wednesday of the month at night from 5:30 to 6:30. We meet in Cranston. And all the women, Scott, have metastatic breast cancer, and they call it the Straight Truth Group because these women are raw with their emotions, their expressions, and the special challenges that they go through because the cancer is always there, always present. They don't get a break from their disease, so how it impacts them and their families. So breast cancer has many types of cancers, different outcomes, but the bottom line is when you hear the words that you have cancer, you go into this mode of what do I do, where do I turn, and I would really encourage anyone who hears those words to turn to the Gloria Gemma Foundation.
Well, and I think it's wonderful that you do what you do, and I know how much I'm sure the people that you work with appreciate what you do, but at the same time, I know how much you benefit from it as well, and I want to bring up a quote that one of your patients said to you, I think, which was very powerful in a moment. But first, more about the Gloria Gemma Breast Cancer Resource Foundation. First of all, for people that don't know, they provide free services to individuals and families touched by breast cancer here in Rhode Island, in southeastern Massachusetts, and in eastern Connecticut, so in our entire listening area. This was established back in 2004 in memory of Gloria Gemma. She was a wife and a mother of 9 who lost her battle with breast cancer in 2002. Now, for more information, they have a great website. You can go to gloriagemma.org. That's Gloria, GEMMA.org. You can also contact them at info@gloriagemma.org. That's their email address. Or by phone at 401-861-4376. And look, their slogan is, we are here for you. We truly are here to help. And they really live by that slogan. Now, I want to go to reference a quote that one of your patients said to you that I think was very powerful for you. And when I heard it too and read it, it really struck home with me. And she said to you, "I'm so much bigger than my cancer." Yeah. Tell us about that quote and how it struck you.
Yes, I remember this patient very well, and she was a woman who had been battling a cancer, actually a couple of cancers for quite a while, and she had gone through the surgeries and the treatments, and she was a woman who really strived to make every day meaningful. She did not allow the cancer to define her or to limit her, and that's another thing with the Gloria Gemma Foundation. I mean, they focus on the survivorship, but it's also the thriving. You thrive through whatever your diagnosis is. And this woman, when she said it to me, this patient, she said it with so much passion and so much strength. She said, "I'm bigger than this. Like, this isn't going to define me. This isn't going to get in the way of my living, my quality of life." She got up every day with a smile on her face, said her prayers, and she did everything she possibly could do. Whatever activities she enjoyed, foods, drinks, she couldn't take it in the way she used to, but she made modifications. So she truly, Scott, found joy in everything she did. She did not let it take away her life before it was time for her life to be taken.
That's wonderful. And for people, again, that want more information, you can go to gloriagemma.org, and there you can find out, all the information about the Gloria Gemma Breast Cancer Resource Foundation, how you can help, how you can donate to support the cause. So, Shakay, you are an oncology social worker, correct?
That is correct. Yes, I have been for a number of years.
Yeah, and was it your experience with breast cancer when you were in your late 20s at the age of 28 that made you decide to go into this, or is this something that you had pursued before you were diagnosed with breast cancer?
Actually, it was something I had pursued prior to when I knew I wanted to be in the health field. I knew I wanted to be a social worker. God gave me some wonderful gifts, and one of the gifts was to be able to really listen and hear. I love folks' stories, life stories, because we all have beautiful, unique life stories. And I think the sharing, we all learn from each other. We can all teach each other. And when I did my first internship, it was at a VA hospital, and it was a medical surgical floor. And I remembered at that time, and we're going back over 40 years, that the cancer patients were down the hall, around the corner, behind closed doors. And I just remembered the loneliness, the fear, the depression. And God just gave me the ability to connect with these folks. And I knew at that moment that I would dedicate myself to oncology patients. And so that's when I did my internships. And then my graduate work, one of my internships was at the Johns Hopkins Medical Center in Baltimore. And that's when I had my involvement with the breast cancer center there. And then when I left there 2 months later, I was diagnosed with my own breast cancer. And then that led to volunteer work with the American Cancer Society and then paid positions. And then over the years, I've worked in the medical field, some directly with cancer patients, or if not, volunteering. And then I did a number of years with a local hospice, which was very, very rewarding. And then most recently in a hospital setting directly related to oncology patients.
Wow, that's wonderful. So you talk about the fact that you wanted to get into a field like this because you're a great listener and you love to hear people's life stories because we all have interesting ones. Maybe none more so than your dad. And I would be remiss if we didn't talk about this before we wrapped up the show. Your dad, Harry Kizirian, was a war hero, a former postmaster, and he is in the Rhode Island Heritage Hall of Fame. Tell us about your dad, Harry.
Harry was an extraordinary individual, very strong person. He and my mom both are direct descendants of Armenian genocide survivors. Both sets of grandparents survived the genocide. So my mom is a descendant of genocide survivors as well as my dad. My dad's dad died when my dad was in his teens. And after my dad graduated high school, he didn't have to go into the service, but he chose to. He chose to go into the Marines because it was just him and my grandmother. And as a result of his time in the Marines, he is the most decorated, one of the most decorated Marines of World War II, and he is the most decorated serviceman in the state of Rhode Island. When he was in high school, he was encouraged by one of his teachers to work in the post office, and my dad at the time would, sweep the floors. And then when he went into the service, he would keep in touch with his friends, the supervisor at the post office. And actually, I have some of the letters. They were very, very sweet, very respectful letters he would write to the supervisor. And then when he came back after the war, he started working at the post office in addition to 2 other jobs. He was married, had 5 children. At the age of 36, he was appointed by President Kennedy, and he was the youngest postmaster in the country.
Wow!
And he was there for the opening of the post office, which is now named after him on Corliss Street.
Yep.
And that was in '61, and it was called the Turnkey, the first automated post office in the world. And he served there for 25 years as postmaster. And so he really is an incredible human being. He and my mom did a wonderful job. They all taught us, they both taught us about family and faith and service, giving back to the community, having a lot of respect for veterans. My mother lost a brother during World War II, so we all grew up with a great respect for the military. And my dad, as he always said, that he was just an ordinary fellow, but he was extraordinary in what he was able to accomplish. The post office is named after him. The plaza is named after him. There's a school in Providence that's named after him. He did a lot of community service work. He was just an incredible human being.
What a true American hero. What a great story.
Very much so.
And Shakay, I would also be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that you and I share a mutual friend and acquaintance, the producer of this program, Laura Minicucci.
Who's an absolute doll. She's my Italian sister. I'm her Armenian sister. And as life would have it, our dads were good friends. And my mom and Laura's stepmom were very good friends, and they would hang out together. And at the post office, when they would have the unveiling of the breast cancer stamps, Laura would always be there to support. And then as it turned out, Laura and I actually worked together at a nonprofit agency in Rhode Island, and then we recognized the connection we had. Yes.
Wonderful. Well, Shakay, I can't thank you enough for joining us and bringing this whole interview full circle. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and it's so important to get screened for breast cancer. And for anybody that wants more information on the Gloria Gemma Breast Cancer Resource Foundation, whether you or a friend or family member is in need of their support, because that's what they are there for, to help you, or whether you want to help them, you want to donate to the cause, there's a few ways that you can contact them. You can look at their website. It's gloriagemma.org. You can email them at info@gloriagemma.org or give them a call at 401-861-4376. Shakay, thank you again for joining us on Community Matters. We really appreciate it.
Scott, thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Laura. And again, I have to reiterate that please do call Gloria Gemma. We are here for you. Everyone's story is unique, and we want to hear your story. We want to be here for you as you navigate your cancer journey.
That is Shakay Kizirian. She was the guest speaker at the Flames of Hope in 2022, an oncology social worker, our guest here on Community Matters. That will do it for this edition of the program. My thanks to Shakay for joining us. My thanks to Laura Minicucci, my producer. Most of all, thanks to you for tuning in this morning. My name is Scott Cordischi. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Be sure to join us again next week for another edition of Community Matters with your host, Scott Cordischi. If your group or organization would like to be part of the show, email us at communitymatters@weei.com.